be all set. Okay, Zoom says it is live stream. Just stand by for 1 sec while I verify. And I hear myself in YouTube, so we're good to go. Welcome, folks, watching on YouTube. This is the February 25th. That's the subcommittee agenda that's there. There we go. This is the February 25th, 2025 MBTA Rider Oversight Committee meeting. I'm Stefan Wunsch, co-chair, along with Wig. Want to just say hi, Wig? Also, we'll see if your mic's working okay. I think it is.
Yeah, Wiggs Amor from Somerville. Grateful to be able to ride the new Green Line branches. They're pretty crowded in the morning, though, I have to say. I had a early dentist appointment a couple days ago, and I got off at Leechmere and just walked.
I hear you. And we've also got Craig, who is co-chair of the Operations and Communications Subcommittee, along with me. Craig, thank you for being here.
Hi, Craig Laskowski. Happy to be here.
And Len Diggins, co-chair of Finance and Capital.
Leonard Diggins, East Arlington. I'm very happy to be here too.
All right. Thank you very much, gents. I don't see anybody on YouTube watching right now, so we will, and there's nobody who is just an attendee. So if
But before we cut,
please go right ahead.
I have to ask Craig, were you rescued me from the trolley that was surrounded by water?
I figured that had to come up. It was going to come up at some point. No,
I kept looking at the video, saying,
thankfully, neither my wife nor I were on the high-speed line on that particular day. We're going to replace all the trolleys with duck boats, and we'll be just fine down here in the rapid transit community of Milton.
Oh my goodness! Wow, sorry. I mean, it didn't look like fun, but it was funny to look at. Sorry.
I mean, it does beg a question: can you be a rapid transit community if your main mode of transportation is a submarine? I don't know.
What did I miss that happened? Was
So
there
I can't believe you missed this. This is a major news story.
Yeah.
Was it last week? Last week, with the heavy rains and thaws, the Neponset River overflowed its banks. The water from the Neponset River first had to go kind of over the bike path, and then over the bike path onto the trolley tracks. And it was just a bad confluence of events where there was a bit of an ice dam that formed, and then the water was splashing over and kind of flooded a low section of the tracks for, I don't know, 20, 30 yards. The trolleys, I mean, they're constantly going. It's not like they're not going. I think it all happened relatively quickly, where they were sloshing through a small puddle that was no big deal, and then at one point the puddle was a big deal. The trolley stopped in the middle of the puddle, and Milton Fire and Rescue had to come with a boat, inflatable dinghy, to shuttle people off of the trolley and onto dry land. So my beloved high-speed line got stuck in a puddle. A puddle so big that it involved a boat to do the rescue.
I am shocked that I didn't hear that on any of the news coverage that I watch and listen to every day. What day was that, roughly? Last week?
Tuesday, Wednesday?
Okay.
Yeah, it was
around. It was Tuesday.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Craig, what was the deepest that the water was?
I think it was. I mean, this is like kind of the ridiculous. Like, if someone's getting me out of the boat, it's like, all right, I'm gonna get my pants wet. It's fine. I think it was a foot and a half.
Okay. Yeah. So it wasn't. No one was gonna drown who had their wits about them.
I think the whole rescuing by boat thing is what makes the story absurd. Like.
No, that's okay. I'm glad it was a foot and a half.
I mean, absurd in the most entertaining way possible.
Right. Well, I'm glad it did, because that water was cold. Even if it wasn't
Yeah,
cold
there
water,
it is. That's the shot you
uh,
want to see right there. See
uh,
that pause? You want to pause that, Stefan? You
Yep.
can see the extent of the water.
yeah.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Even if it's
Wow.
warm, I prefer not to
I
get
mean,
wet.
it's a significant puddle. I mean, when you
Yeah.
look at it,
Yeah.
it's not nothing.
Son of a gun. I'm not going to play the audio, and I'm not going to go into any
Yeah, I
detail.
No,
Just
mean,
no,
there,
no,
there's the
because
rescue boat.
we saw it, Stefan. I don't know what rock
yeah,
you were under.
Uh, I was
yeah,
nope, and there's Ryan.
yeah,
Yeah.
Ryan had to show up. I mean,
Son of a gun.
it's not every day that the premier mode of transport in our rapid transit community in Milton gets shut down. So,
Or,
Wow.
and Ryan said, "Well, I've been with the team for like 10 years. I've never seen anything like that." And I'm thinking, well, 10 years isn't a whole lot of time, for me to feel as if you had a lot of
Yeah.
experience, with unusual things. It's like when someone says, "I've been here 40 years and I've never seen anything like that," it's like, okay, maybe we have a rare event here.
yeah,
But 10 years,
Son of a gun.
the amazing thing is it was cleared up relatively fast.
that's good.
Hmm.
I think they were able to break some ice dams and stuff. It wasn't like this was like it was shut down for a week and they had a
Yeah.
massive pumps out there and blowers and stuff. I think it was just
Yeah.
as simple as like clearing out a couple drains and some stuff, and it by the afternoon it was subsided, and then
Yeah.
I think service was restored 24 hours later.
Do you happen to know, was that particular trolley car damaged?
It's a good question.
All right.
Like I have no idea what happens when you waterlog the what's the word with the carriages, right?
Yeah, the motors. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it looks like one of the old ones that haven't been rebuilt, and I know those are still the most susceptible to
It, yeah,
water, so that's bad
it
news.
is an old one because it doesn't have the ugly silver box on the top of it.
Yep. Well, I'm sure we'll follow up with Jonathan in the subcommittee, but boy, you don't have any really that you can afford to lose out of the fleet.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Can't
Well, I
win
guess
for
it's not
losing.
really a surprise that there was no major infrastructure damage because if I understand that area, all of the traction power, the 600 volt DC is overhead even for supplying the catenary, and there's no signals, right? I don't think there's any signals on the line except in the Mattapan yard, right? And maybe one
Uh,
that starts out of Ashmont, I believe. I could be wrong.
no, yeah. I guess there's a switch at Ashmont because you can
Yep.
technically divert into the other yard there. I think, but
Yeah, and I think there's a signal there, but I don't think along the line there's any
no.
signals, which means in theory there's no electronics of any great import at ground level. But we'll
Well,
follow up with Jonathan. I'm glad nobody was hurt, and
and
jeez.
I'll say having people like taken off by dinghy certainly beats them jumping off the tracks into the water.
Yes.
Oh, it's very nice of them, but I think
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
no. There'd be something about me where like a firefighter's like helping me into a dinghy off of a trolley. I'd be like, oh, like please don't take a picture.
Well,
This is-
well,
you know,
yes. To be very serious though, anytime that you've got transit equipment with
Uh,
water, there is a non-zero possibility that there could be electrification happening in the water. So
uh,
evacuating by dinghy, and all the firefighters wearing,
yeah,
heavy, uh,
yeah,
weatherproof gear, I think that's reasonable.
yeah, I
I
think so
I
too.
wouldn't want to jump into water around
yeah, I guess
electric
I didn't
trolley
think that part of
vehicle.
it through. I'm thinking, hopefully they. See, my general rule is just jump into the water. That's why when the orange line was on fire, I just jumped. It was like towel
Got your
off.
swimming
Why
laps in
wait,
then.
why wait for help when I can
Right.
Plus, it looks bad getting help, doesn't it? It's Craig. I mean, it's like really, it's bad enough I'm in trouble, but now they get video of me being helped. We can't have that. So it's like worse.
very
Oh.
very exciting news down here. Very
All
exciting.
right, let's rein it back in because we've only
Yeah,
got Craig for
yeah,
a limited amount of time.
yeah. Sorry.
Um, you said, Craig, that you'd like us to go right into the subcommittee
Yeah, I thought
report.
it made sense, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Let I've got it up here on the screen, and I believe I've actually got, yeah, this is the entirety of the notes shown. I can make the font a little larger if anybody wants.
I'm fine. I'm just going to listen.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. Of course, the stuff that's most interesting is what Jonathan said, so I'll let you
Yeah.
review that. I'm
Well,
going to step away for a little bit, but I have my audio up. Okay.
That's fine. Not a worry. So just to recap here, the meeting, the subcommittee meeting kicked off talking about the existing 45 High Street office suites and where the existing Operation Control Center is. Because in the previous meeting last month, we were talking about how the Quincy acquisition by the MBTA has said that it's targeting a new Operations Control Center, again OCC for short. And I asked at the committee meeting, well, does that mean that the 45 High Street would be um, retired entirely? And it was pointed out at the subcommittee meeting that no, because 45 High Street, the office buildings and the OCC are actually built all on top of the power substation for the Red
Yep.
Line. That was a deliberate design
Yeah.
decision to take advantage of that property. I didn't realize that what we know is 45 High, where we used to have our committee meetings, uh,
Right.
was built in situ above power station and has always, not always, but for the length of time it's been a power station, it's been MBTA property. So it seems like a very good choice. In hindsight, as an oversight group, hey, wow, that's a brilliant bit of reutilization of property. In the tight area of downtown, back before 45 High was the existing facility that it is. Somebody was really thinking outside the box to say, hey, we've got a power substation. Let's build up and create our new operations center. That's on the level of genius. I mean, it might have cost a lot more than building the 45 High Street equivalent somewhere else, but as we've witnessed, there's a lot of advantage of having the operations center right in downtown. We'll see if the OCC moves to Quincy, if there's any negative impacts on incident response, etc. But we've heard that real estate transaction in Quincy for ostensibly a new OCC is happening, so we'll keep an eye on it. Of course, we talked about the Green Line crash that happened. I think it was the week before we had this meeting on the 11th. I think it was the first week in February, and that was when the an operator going into son of a gun. I can't remember if it was West Medford or not West Med. Sorry, I'm blanking on what station it was, but collision between two trains of two cars each, and um, we were told in the subcommittee that both, as you can see here, both of those Type 7 cars are gone because of major structural damage, and that both of the Type 8s that were there was two Type 7s, two Type 8s, a 7 and 8 in two different train sets. Probably those Type 8s will just be relegated to a parts source as well. So probably none of those four cars will ever run under revenue service again. And interestingly, if you remember, I think it was a year ago, maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago by now, on Com Ave, there was a collision between two trains in a very similar way to the one that just happened earlier this month. And interestingly enough, one of the cars in that collision on Com Ave was actually sent out for frame repairs. Um, Given the level of damage, that seems surprising, but somebody's made the decision that it's still repairable. Okay, I'm interested in following up on that. Um, we do have a start date for Fall River, New Bedford. It's been publicized in that
Yep.
press announcement as March 24th. I will put that into the Zoom chat, and I'll also drop it onto YouTube. Oh, I didn't mean to cover up the notes. Let me go back there. Um, Sorry, let me just get a window moved around. There we go. Um, I'll stop there because if anybody wants any more details, you can go to that link. It looks like all systems go. Sort of as a side note, I put a link in for just for more like for amusement than anything. If you ever wanted to see um, a non-MBTA affiliated club of folks who run antique little maintenance vehicles for fun. There was a trip in 2023 on the Fall River New Bedford line, and that's a very fun video to watch, showing the what is about to be new commuter rail service being covered by hobbyists. Very fun stuff, but again, just sort of tangentially related to Fall River, New Bedford, March 24th. I'm hoping to be there. We did talk about the return to uh, well, not return to normal, but in the direction of normal ridership increasing more and more. Uh, WMATA, 69%. And I didn't take the note of what our current MBTA numbers are. I apologize, because I know that was mentioned in the course of the meeting. So I don't have a comparison for WMATA to MBTA. Sorry about that. Um, that I thought was worth putting in the notes, obviously, that New York has recovered the quickest out of all comparable agencies from what was discussed in the subcommittee. Um, that was coming out of someone at the subcommittee who had actually experienced the Baltimore transit. I don't think there wasn't anything that was directly applicable to MBTA in that discussion of Baltimore, other than just sort of, you know, how how good we've got it in some aspect compared to a peer agency like Baltimore. I don't want to cast aspersions on Baltimore because I'm not personally familiar with it, but that's what was shared at the meeting by somebody who attended, that Baltimore's service is lacking. Um,
Well, Baltimore has more challenges than Boston
True.
in
Yep.
recent decades. They certainly
Absolutely right.
deserve empathy for that.
True.
Um,
Absolutely. Well said. Yeah.
and they had that giant bridge, which was not really anything to do with Baltimore so much, except that it happened there
Yes.
due to lack of tugboats,
Yep.
stewarding those huge container ships. The one other thing, though, that you have to say is that it's close to DC. It's got Johns Hopkins, and it also has the top astronomy group in the United States, is in Baltimore.
Oh, interesting.
They run the web out of there. They're running all these really new space telescopes that are making a lot of cutting edge insights.
Hmm.
They're spread around. Obviously,
Yeah.
there's people here, there's people in Pasadena and elsewhere, but Baltimore, that is the top astronomy site in the country, I think.
Cool. I
So
apologize to cut you off. I want to move on
yeah, sure,
to additional.
yeah,
I
sure.
apologize. This was just sort of a side note about how Build Your Dream is the actual name of a vehicle manufacturer used by, at least in Denver, and they've gotten a nickname. I don't think there's any relevance there, but it was interesting. And if anybody wants to Google for Build Your Dream transit company, there you go. I'm just going to drop these two links in because they are big final reports on the funding task force results. Um, I don't know, Len, if you're in earshot. I think you said you were. Do you want to comment at all on the final transit report from that committee? You don't have to.
No, 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 I'm not prepared to.
Okay, that's completely fine.
I
I'm just
mean,
gonna.
no more so than I was 2 weeks before that meeting.
Okay,
So yeah.
cool. I'm just trying to put the. It's interesting. I can't paste two links at the same time into the YouTube page. I've got to do it one at a time. That's odd. Just making sure that documents that we've reviewed get into the YouTube permanent record. There we go. Um, yeah, and we talked about, where we have to focus. I think we said focus on what results we want to have, and then the pricing goes in the way of directing people's behavior to what we want to see happen. Kind of exciting that the positive train control on full railroad, not rapid transit, not light rail, positive train control on the federally mandated FRA required commuter rail lines is complete. That's a huge thing. I think it was a $900 million project spanning, I think it was what, 6 years? Um, I raised the question of, or no, the question was raised of have any accidents been avoided already from positive train control?
Yeah.
We're not aware. Probably worth asking. Have there been any near misses? Have there been any successes? Um, we almost I'll speak for myself. I kind of hope not. I kind of hope that we haven't had any issues that positive train control needed to prevent. But if we did and it was prevented, that's good. Finally, Craig, I know I see you're getting on to be on your way out. That's fine. We did talk about the scheduled maintenance outages for 2025. It's a looking like a very comprehensive communication plan, and the details that are already laid out are very, very specific with timelines and impacts. And I don't want to speak for other people, but I think the general sense was that it's looking very well designed, and not as impactful as we had in 2024. Wig or Len, am I misrepresenting that view that we had?
Well,
I
I'm not
agree.
sure. Not sure this is dead on target, but the thing that really stands out in the materials for today's meeting to me is the bridge to North Station and the cost of it. It's just stunning. And so
Yeah,
I think it would be helpful to have somebody give us somebody with technical insight give us an update on that at some point.
yeah,
How much is it?
It's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars.
yes,
Or is it like I can go and look myself. I didn't focus deeply on the capital. This is from the capital investment plan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I figured I was saving that one for 2 weeks
That's
from
okay.
now. But
Yes,
so
sure.
so can you tell me like is it 300 million, 800 million?
It's not 800, but it uses, I think it uses most of 500.
All right.
yeah. I
I mean,
probably can't
it
find
just
it quick
stuck
enough
out
either, but
compared to all the, most of the line items. It stuck out a lot. And of course, from a normal rider's point of view, I think they're looking at increased service or things like that. And so to
yes.
have a major maintenance issue take that much, it just gives you a little pause. You've got to do it, but it's significant.
Yep, absolutely. My understanding, though, when it comes to at least with service outages for that work, I believe we were told early on that there's not expected to be any well, not any closures completely, because the idea is that there's going to be a new set of three spans, and in one form or another, it's going to replace the two existing spans without completely requiring the closure. So whether it's a new one is built next to the existing two, or one of the existing ones is taken out and then the two new ones are made, but it's going to be like staggered from side to side, sort of in the same way that the Gloucester drawbridge was done. Because I don't know if you remember, the Gloucester drawbridge was done one side first. They got service back again and they built the other side. Go ahead, Craig.
And I'm sorry, I got to drop. But
That's okay.
I think that the question to me is always, do we? It's one thing to just replace it, and it is what it is. It's $50 million, but at $500 million, you start to ask the question: do we need to get creative on this? Like, do you move the train? Are you better off moving the train station on the other side of the river and building a pedestrian bridge and having a brand new beautiful station over where the in the where the skate park and all that other stuff is. Like, probably not possible. Like, I'm way over the top here, but
Right.
there's a lot of different ways to spend $500 million.
Yeah, it would just be nice to have a clear
This is
presentation
just a
by.
bridge. This is a brand new, beautiful station. This isn't like,
Right. Yeah, but it is complicated. You got the locks on the Charles
no,
River. You
absolutely.
know, so but
Thanks,
I think
everybody. Hopefully, I'll stay longer next time.
that warrants a
Sure,
separate section of a meeting in the future.
sure. Well,
When whenever.
well, I mean, maybe we can get some folks from capital investment planning to talk with us. Their timeline is that I think they release the plan, to the board next month, and then they go on tour, for the rest of the month in April, getting public comment.
Yeah.
So if they can't come to us, we can certainly go to them.
Yeah, however it works most
Yeah.
easily for us and them, that's
Right.
just fine.
Right, and you as an individual, of course, can always attend any of their meetings. I mean, and then ask a question as a scout for us and come back with the answer. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll have good information, well, summarized at the right time, just as you've suggested.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm definitely going to follow this because I'm particularly interested to see if there's actually able to be any um, preservation of the existing control house. It's really the only remaining um, uh, large scale uh, control tower, the Tower One at North Station. I think it was built in the 1920s, and it was if memory serves me correct, it was basically like a whole like a half a city block from left to right of controls for all the switches. It was like the first large scale electro-pneumatic system, and that building is still there, and it's deemed historic.
Yeah,
But I don't,
it's not that big, but it's totally replaced, right, by the little aluminum, you know.
in a functional sense, yes,
Yeah,
yes, because all the signals and switches are done out of Cobble Hill, the dispatcher center, and really the only thing that's controlled locally is the drawbridges themselves.
right.
So the Tower One itself is just an historic building with some pretty nice architecture, in my opinion. But we'll see.
Yeah.
I think it's actually mentioned in the historic preservation document, but I have yet to actually see if that building is actually able to be saved. It might just be in the way.
Yeah, it doesn't look that bad. And obviously it is at a nexus of an awful lot of activity. You've got the the major sand and gravel supplier,
Yep,
on the other side of it. Um, there's probably some security issues.
there it is. I
Um,
found it.
but but
That's it.
still, yeah.
Oh, I said Tower One. I'm sorry, Tower A.
But it hasn't been used for a couple decades now.
Yep, exactly. But it's in still pretty good shape, except for that one piece that got weakened, and they shored up with the just about the size of utility poles. But
Yep.
yeah, I'd like to see it saved personally, but at what cost? Yeah, can't save everything. Where would you put it? It's an old joke. Um, any more comments, questions, or any discussion points for the subcommittee minutes?
No.
Okay. Oh yeah, sorry, just for the record, for anyone who's not able to view the notes, we just discussed near the end about how there might be, for the first time in a long, long, long time, there might be some four-car trains running on the Red Line, which hasn't happened in, I think it was said decades, um, so that we can utilize the latest fleet, the latest deliveries of the new CRRC Redline cars, because apparently we have enough to make up a couple
Sure.
of four-car trains, but not enough to make up six-car trains. So we've got some brand new vehicles that are just sitting idle. But if we ran some four-car trains and maybe in the off-peak time frames, weekends
Right.
or off-peak weekdays, hey, we could actually put them to use. To be determined, but it's an interesting idea. So I will call that done for the subcommittee. This was the agenda that we had from the subcommittee on the 11th.
Can I just
And
ask a naive question about those four cars? Can
yeah.
those be can they be changed from three to four fairly easily, like during the day, or is that something that's
Oh, you mean from four to six?
oh,
Yeah.
4 to 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
All the new red and orange line cars are basically like married pairs. They they exist in a two-car set that really can't be separated. So we call them
Oh, that's
uh,
okay.
yeah. So basically the only options to run the new CRRC vehicles are either two, four, or six. Um, I think that's what the question you asked. Can a smaller car set, like either two, four, whatever,
Right.
be coupled up to make a six-car set in the middle of the day? I think technically, yeah, because you can couple and uncouple. The question is, do we have people who are skilled enough to do it safely and reliably? And if one were to be doing that, where would it happen? Because
I
it's a
assume,
long way to get back to Cabot.
yeah, I assume it would be either end of the, unless there's some really huge areas where they can pull off, but I
Right, and there
assume it
there
would be
really
at the
isn't.
ends.
Yeah, but
But
the other catch though is that if one were going to be taking a four-car set and trying to make a six-car set by adding two more,
right,
if you're doing it at the end of the lines, like at Alewife or at
right,
Braintree or
right,
Ashmont Yard, where it would make the most sense, in case you have any trouble, you're not blocking the line,
right.
you'd have to get that additional two-car set out there somehow. Would you run it deadhead? And then that would annoy people to see a train going by without stopping.
Well,
And, what's the pro and con versus just not running a four-car set until we've got enough vehicles to make six versus all that operational complexity to try to couple uncouple. Where do you make it up? Where do you tear it
well, but
apart?
it just might make sense for the rush hours.
Oh, sure.
If it could be
Yeah.
done easily enough. I mean, I, when I have to go downtown for an appointment early in the morning, I live close enough. I can get off and walk an extra mile or two. Um, it, if I've left enough time, which I usually do. Um, but it would be great to not have people packed in like sardines and also not have just way too much capacity on the line. A little
Yep.
bit of adjustment would seem to make sense from a fuel point of view, but also from a wear and tear point of view.
Definitely. My guess is that from the operational standpoint, one of the concerns about running fewer than a full six-car set at any time other than off-peak would be the risk of overcrowding on that less than six-car set,
Yeah,
leading to slowdowns and slowdowns and slowdowns. And next
yeah,
thing you know, you've got a bottleneck behind it.
yep,
I
yep,
was just thinking, boy, I perish the thought that we would ever run, I don't know, like a 60-foot articulated bus on a route where there were conventional 40-foot buses. I mean, like that would be a bad news as well. Can you imagine like trying to run a small bus followed by a big bus or all the way around? The small one would probably get overcrowded quickly and then you've got bunching and
yep.
That's kind of a
Yeah.
hypothetical situation, I have to admit, but um,
Well, the roads are more complicated because the bus, public transit's not the only vehicle.
right.
But
Actually, that's a very interesting point with regard to, as we were talking about last month, with regard to the transit signal priority, TSP, which Boston and MassDOT said jointly they're going to be implementing on several routes in Boston. That's a very interesting point. Does there need to be, or will there be any accounting for the size of the vehicle, 40-foot versus 60-foot bus, or the crowding level in the transit signal priority system? I right now I can't imagine how it would be done, but certainly the transit system, the signal system might be able to have a different indicator if it's a large bus versus a small bus, but crowding probably would never factor into any kind of automated response. But I'll try to remember to look up for an answer to that question, or maybe even ask somebody if the opportunity arises. That may
yeah.
just be just more an academic question and not really something that's um,
Well, I
important. But
assume that the system managers can see the IDs of the vehicles and tell instantly their capacity, right?
oh, absolutely right. Of course, because the ID number is transmitted as part of the data feed, and we know
Right,
because it's well understood this range of vehicle IDs is this type of vehicle. You're absolutely right. Yeah, that's inherent in the ID numbers. Thank you.
right.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Anything more for subcommittee or other related topics? If not, we'll come back to main agenda for tonight. Um, we, where are we? We're up to current events and recent presentations. Is there anything that either of you wanted to call out? Because I've just got two quick things that caught my eye. The most recent full MBTA board meeting was just earlier today, so I'm a little
Right.
behind on seeing everything since it was literally just a few hours ago. Anything that you gents want to start off discussing, showing?
Let's start off with your questions, and then maybe we can dive into the general manager's report, you
Okay,
know,
cool.
and we can talk about um, the Green Line GLX settlement.
Yep.
Yeah, and
I'm I happen to be looking right at that slide, so yeah,
yeah,
we'll come back
yeah.
to.
But why don't we start off with what you have in mind?
Okay, cool. Um, I wanted to point out. I'm going to point out that scrolling for the ride, the slide on the ride presentation. There we go. Yeah. I believe the Ride Access Center,
Mhm.
TRAC, is something, well, at least by that name. I don't think I'd heard of TRAC, the Ride Access Center, before. It appears to be an actual facility, in-person interviews, functional assessments, travel training, planning, technology training, um, with this with the call center and dispatch systems. I'm under the impression that this is all going to be in the new facility. And this, I couldn't tell. Len, do you know, is this photo right here? Is this something that exists today in one of the garages? It looks to be too good to be a mock-up, but I don't think I don't think I'd heard of anything like this. Or is this not even MBTA?
What is this supposed to be a photo of?
I believe this is a photo of what they're describing as the um,
Trip planning?
trip plan,
No, it wouldn't be
functional
trip planning.
assessments, as well as travel training. I could be wrong.
Could be fixed route travel training.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
this looks like a kind of environment for not only just training operators, but also training customers in a way of here's
right,
how, you can expect to board and uh, alight and
right.
uh, but I'm not even sure if that's an MBTA vehicle. Oh, son of a gun, it's not. I just realized. I just zoomed in. I didn't look at the fine print before. That says something Commission of Southern Nevada. Oh, there we go. So that's not even MBTA. Okay. So we've got an image here that maybe looks to be an aspiration of the MBTA for this mobility center. That makes it even more interesting to me, I think. All right.
Um,
Now that I realize that this is not an MBTA vehicle and it says Nevada in the back, um, I'm taking this to be what they're designing the new facility in Quincy to be.
yeah, maybe.
In
It's maybe.
person, functional assessment, training. Yeah.
But I think they have a track uh, up and running. I mean, that was my impression from the deck.
Oh, yeah?
Is that they do have a track. Yeah,
Okay.
but maybe it just isn't those. So it's not.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, I don't
Sorry.
know.
It was right there up all along. It was in the slide before. 200 Newport Ave, consolidate two ride contracts. I think that means the contractors, right? Into one facility for operations. Yeah.
Huh.
Mm.
That sounds very exciting.
And maybe it's not up and running, but I got the impression that it was up and running because it seems like me that's how they're coordinating.
Oh,
The 1.5 million trips,
yep.
the 1.1 million calls, the 30,000 customers, and the 700 vehicles. So I did a little math.
Yep. Go ahead.
So those 30,000 customers, how many trips do you can probably do the math quickly yourself. How many trips or they do in a year, each of them?
1.5 divided by 30,000, right? 1.5 million divided by 30,000.
Uh,
I'd have to use a calculator for
so
that.
50. Yeah, so it's 50. So they're
Oh,
doing roughly 50 trips a year now, assuming the your outbound and inbound, or your destination and your return trips, or two trips. So they're just on average you're doing like 25 outings a year, using the ride, which is low. I I
yeah.
I think. It's because if you are a person who needs to ride, I can see kind of like all of those trips, or at least half of them, being dedicated, to medical
Yep.
appointments, and
Right.
Yeah,
so
it sure doesn't seem like enough for groceries.
yeah, I was, because I didn't. At first, I thought, oh, it's only 30,000 customers, for 1.5 million, and I was like, oh, these 30,000 must be like doing a lot. And then I did the math. It's like, no, they're not doing a lot at all. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that the these aren't round trips. I think these are, as we call them,
Yep.
for the rail service, unlinked trips, so yeah, and so the 700 vehicles, so those 30,000 customers, the 1.5 million trips,
Mhm.
I think equates to about 4,000 trips a day, which seems like a lot, but then when you divide it over 700 vehicles, it's about 5.5 trips per vehicle, so it all seems pretty reasonable. Yeah, the numbers kind of make
Yeah.
sense, and then but then the 30,000 customers, 25 round trips a year. I mean, it makes those 1.5 million trips now not seem like so much, you
Right.
know, and it does make me wonder. I mean, if we are, providing all the service that's really needed for folks, if folks just, and,
Well,
go
yeah,
ahead.
I think your math is really good, Len. Yeah, the other thing this makes me think about is that some communities have volunteer rides
Yes,
for
they do.
this.
Right.
The people are kind of trained and vetted, and
Yeah.
they could be retired or for one
Yeah.
reason or another, they have
Right.
time to help people
Yeah.
locally.
Yeah. And that's actually kind of coordinated, or I won't say it's coordinated by the MPO, but it's one of the things the MPO studies, so it's call it coordinated human transportation.
Yeah,
And so yeah, and that's a big deal. I mean, it's a good deal too because I think it's more on demand. I mean, I don't know to what extent people have to
right.
schedule. I mean, there's some scheduling involved, but
Yep,
yeah, I mean, I kind of like it. I mean, in fact, the neighbor down the street does it, and I think it's really good for me creating cohesiveness within the
yep.
community, and I think they get paid something. I'm not sure. Maybe they are strictly volunteers, but I think maybe they get something for
Well,
for
you could be right about that. I only kind of know because I needed a ride to and one time I needed a ride to and from a medical appointment, and I was very impressed.
right,
It was just a local person. She was very professional,
right,
cordial. Um,
yeah. No, that's good. I mean, I don't know if they get compensation for like the use of their vehicle. I mean, I should look into that, But yeah, and also on this deck they talk about funding services or at least paying Uber and Lyft to supplement the service. And a fair amount too. It seems like it's like 30 million, or let's just scroll up. I guess I have to scroll down.
well, that
Uh,
probably makes sense too if it's kind of off peak hours for the
yeah.
Uber and Lyft drivers.
Yeah. So there's 30 million for Lyft and 23 million for Uber. Um, so
What
they've
page is
been,
that?
it is slide number 14.
Oh, near the end. Okay. Got it. There it is.
So they started doing this work, or started using these services, I guess, back in 2021. So they've been adding to the contracts. So these are contracts. This has been paid over since 2021. So it's not per year. So it's the total amount that they paid these two TNCs, over over a 4 year period.
Hmm.
Um, so so yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, it seems like it seems like the ride's getting better by the stats that they are using. The on-time performance. Although down a little bit. This is on slide number 10.
Yep.
Although down a little bit, over since at the peak, 96%, in August to December, 93%. Still just a 3% decrease.
Hmm.
And I have to say, it's one of the things that I have a general problem with graphs. And I understand why people do this. You you set the range, to give you a lot of separation, but you always have to
Right.
kind of tell yourself, even though that 3% looks big, on that chart, it really
Hmm.
isn't a big number,
Right.
so I mean, and so
Yep.
and the call center hold times though, have gone down a whole lot, and so that's good. I don't know what the ride along. This is on the next slide, 11.
Yep.
Maybe what is the ride along initiative? Is it, does
Oh,
anyone know?
I don't know.
Is
Okay.
that for a companion, um, like a family member, or
I don't know. I don't know. So I'll go on the site and look for it. So I thought I started to earlier, but I
Oh,
was
no, I
just,
got it.
what is it?
It is a real-time tracking system, and they've named it that.
oh,
Okay. All right. So then
Track your
where you're.
vehicle's arrival with ride along.
Okay. All right. I
And
seem
it,
to remember. Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off. No, finish your thought.
No, that's fine. That's fine. It's a little bit of a delay. So go ahead.
Yep. No, I just wanted to point out, although they have screenshots here of a smartphone, it does say ride customers who subscribe to get text messages can track their vehicle's arrival. Sign up to get a text message when your driver is nearby. That's excellent
Yeah.
because we've talked before about concerns that requiring, well, sort of implicitly requiring a smart device, a smart mobile device, puts it out of reach for a lot of MBTA customers. So that's really refreshing, in my opinion, that you can get notified by a simple text message, meaning it would work on non-smartphones, which are still out there in quite pretty big numbers. I mean, decreasing every year, of course, but that's really excellent.
Well, I'll point out though, I mean, that you're the one saying, that there are a lot of people out there, without smartphones. I'm
I
not
think
saying
there's a decent amount.
I'm
You're
not
right.
saying that at
I'm
all.
speculating.
So
Yep.
I very much doubt. I think I'd have a hard time, finding a person that doesn't have a smartphone on them, at any given point in time. And I say that anywhere. I could,
Fair enough.
pick a train or a bus, on any line, and I bet I'd have a hard time finding someone, that doesn't.
Yep.
Now you could say those folks are out and about. You can say the folks who don't have, phones, or people who aren't getting out. And then the question becomes, why aren't they getting out?
Yeah.
Is that they're not getting out because they don't have a smartphone, or is it that they're not getting out because they just don't tend to want to get out, and there tends to be a
Yeah.
correlation between people who don't want to go out, and people who have smartphones.
Right.
Although it's probably the inverse. So, uh,
Yep.
uh, but
But
anyways, go
well,
ahead.
I got to make a final comment because
Sure.
I'm now that I'm actually reading this, which I don't think I had before. You simply text subscribe to that phone number from the phone number in your ride account, and that's it. That's wonderful. A one word to activate from the ride account you've already set up, and presumably then the rides that you have called in to speak to a human to set up are going to get notified to you. So no computer interface needed, just a phone call with a text message capable phone.
Nice.
Wow,
So if you look
wonderful.
on are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
That covered with
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Sure. So if you go to slide 9,
Ah, yes.
you know, you see the ridership has been increasing,
Yes.
on the ride, on every month, from 2022 to 24, and you know, and these numbers seem, pretty substantial. And what I like about this one too is that you have the zero, on the graph, so it's evenly
Yep.
spaced from zero, and so there's not like this distortion that you could get, and if you then just had like a, a 80,000 spread,
Right.
so you get the real sense of how they differ, so yeah, so it seems
Yep.
like the peak was in October. Well, and I think that's just weather related, and but there could be something else going on, but I think it's probably weather related,
Yeah. I think that's reasonable.
and and probably people have fewer appointments. I think in November, December, although maybe something, maybe there's some other phenomenon going on in December, November, December.
Yep. Or it just could have been all those people that were taking the ride to get up to Salem for the
Yeah,
Halloween happenings.
there you go.
I'm being entirely facetious.
Hey.
But yeah, I'm sure it's weather related. That's 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 a safe bet.
So yeah, no, I'm very pleased with what I've seen, for
Yeah,
car transit
likewise.
these days. Yeah. So what was your other question or
Ah,
issue?
thank you. The other is how we learned from the SRM, the safety risk management slide deck, which I'm pulling over here. Um,
Is that the safety report?
yes, from Mr. Lisniak. Yes, from the Chief Safety Officer. I believe it's number 4 in the attachments from that board meeting today. The thing that jumped out at me for this was single track operation.
Uh,
This I don't want to say that I fell off my chair when I read this, but my jaw dropped a little bit because I don't remember hearing anything about even um, discussions happening about single track operation. I think my memory is that the last time in our committee we discussed single track operation, we came to the consensus that it'll never happen. There's just too much complexity, too much risk, too much operational overhead. But we're reading here single track operation SRM workshops were held in May 2024, January 25. Feasibility was tested with representation from 3 different group operations, safety, and accessibility. And that is, to me personally, absolutely thrilling because we have talked in the past, on our committee, talked in the past about how if only we could run on a single track for reduced capacity, reduced service, but some kind of service
Right.
during maintenance work on the other track, it would almost certainly be better, in air quotes, better than 100% bus substitution. Um, how much better? What's the cost benefit analysis? As it says here, may or may not be supplemented with shuttle buses. Sure. But I am just beside myself with uh, joy, for lack of a better expression, that the discussions are happening. I mean, I don't want to belabor the point, but this is thrilling to me that it's being discussed. Whether it ever happens or not, we don't know right now, but um,
I mean, the way I have my Zoom view set up, you really are beside yourself.
yes,
Yeah.
right.
There are single track systems that have spots where the the two directions can pass
Mhm.
each other.
Absolutely. And we have them too, but only on commuter rail right now.
But that, that's one I wonder, just locally, I always often wonder if that would help extend the Union Square Green Line to Porter, which would mostly benefit Cambridge because the
It's
people in
true.
East Cambridge really can't get to the Red Line that easily or to the center of Cambridge. So, and I think that could be
Hmm.
done with maybe one intermediate station where the green lines could pass each other. There used to be 4 train tracks, in that
Yes.
whole corridor, and they just got imposed upon when people weren't looking by warehouses and things like that.
And a substation at Union Square. Yep.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
damn. All right. I apologize for the language. That gosh darn electrical substation at Union Square. Gosh darn that substation. But yeah.
And while they were, you know, crying about how hard it would be to do anything better, they're building a
Hmm.
huge underground station in a new building in Kendall Square.
Oh,
Huge
how's
underground.
that?
One of the biggest new buildings in Kendall Square has a huge new substation that's underground, and it's a
I'm
commercial
sorry.
building.
I'm sorry. I got you. I got you. Electrical substation.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. For a split
Yeah,
second,
sorry.
I thought you were talking about a new red
No,
line
no, no,
station
no, no.
under
Sorry.
this build. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
didn't mean to throw
No,
you
no, that was
off the
me. That was
planet.
me. Electrical substation under a building. Right, right, right. But yeah, Wig, as I don't do often enough, I'm going to give you credit for that because I personally had never thought of, sure, a single track green line from Union Square, that relatively small distance to get out to Porter.
Right.
Hmm. I don't know if that bridge abutment right at Union Square
No, it
would
can fit. It can fit.
in the inside the bridge abutment,
Yeah, I think
and then
I
interesting.
don't think it I think it could fit. I mean, you can take 10 minutes of time sometime and just look at the aerials, but
Exactly what I was just thinking.
and
Yeah,
I think
Google
there's
Earth would.
enough I think there's enough room around that power station too to
Son of a gun. That hadn't even occurred to me. In this committee, we had talked before about what a shame it is that the Union Square branch couldn't go all the way to Porter. If I remember correctly, that substation was cited as the single reason, the only reason
yeah,
why
and
it stopped.
why I think it's especially worth considering from time to time is the community of East Cambridge are the ones that get run over by all the tech, and
Yeah,
everything, and they're the ones that don't have great connections to the center of their town or city rather. So
yep.
I just think it would be a nice thing to think about for them from time to time.
Oh, I apologize. East Cambridge?
Yeah,
I don't.
East Cambridge.
Oh, okay. In my
They've
mind,
got
I
a
don't
ton of
think
stuff
of.
there. It's where the engine terminals effectively in East Cambridge. The
Right.
green
Yeah, that.
green
Yeah,
line green
yeah.
line
I
is
just.
tiny. But then, with North Point Cambridge Crossing and that the park, they do like the waterfront park. That was done really well at Cambridge
Yep.
Crossing, North Point. But the the traffic for that neighborhood between the major arterial highways and I-93 and Kendall, that's a big
Yep.
problem for them.
Yep. No, I apologize if I'm dwelling on something without merit. Um I don't think of Union Square and like Porter as East Cambridge. To
Well,
me, they're
Union Square
more.
is Somerville,
Yep.
but
Okay.
it's halfway between East Cambridge and Porter, which is
Okay.
Cambridge.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I have my
Yeah.
neighborhood references correct in my head. Okay, cool. Well, that's it for what I wanted to show with the single track operation. I mean, if that if single track operation could ever come to fruition, that that would be huge. And I'll leave it there unless either one of you gents want to add anything about that. Okay. Now, Len, anything more that you wanted to
Sure.
share with the
Sure. Well, let's take a look at the general manager's report.
Yep, I've got it right here.
Oh, there
Um,
apologies, but there is one other footnote on that single
Please,
track. Um,
sure.
if there was an intermediate, small, tiny, modest station between Union and Porter, that would directly hit the backside of Harvard.
True.
So, there's another benefit that, you're serving that community um, from a different direction too.
That's true.
It would basically be a block from the that really fancy intellectual group. I forget what you
The
call it.
triple AS?
No, no, it's the Academy of Arts and Sciences building is about a block from that corridor.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
and
why it's
yeah.
called the triple. That's why it's
Oh,
called the
okay.
triple AS. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's really a spectacular building. There's a nice
Yeah.
little park next to it. I don't think
Yeah.
it's used very often.
Yeah, I think I've been in it only once. I used to walk through that park all the time because I used to
Yeah,
live
it's
on,
nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so cut through and go back behind the div school. Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Len, I've got the GM's presentation slides up. If you wanted to call out anything, I can scroll to it.
Sure. Well, so you're kind of seeing some ridership increases,
Hmm.
on various modes. Although it seems like the system's still like only when you look at the whole system, it's about 70%. I don't know if it's on this deck, but they did mention that weekend service is above where it was before the pandemic. I think
Yeah.
it is on this one where they're talking about increased
Yep.
increased weekend trips, on the blue, orange, and red lines. That's
Yep.
going to be slide, you know,
13 at the
13.
bottom.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've got
yeah.
that. I don't see a pre-pandemic reference.
It's not on this one. Where
Okay.
is the pre-pandemic reference? Um,
I'm looking as well. I apologize for folks that I'm scrolling.
Yeah, I thought that was a
oh,
super.
okay. So it's actually on slide 14,
Oh,
right between, I guess it's slide 14. Increased weekend trips exceeding pre-pandemic levels.
oh, I'm sorry. It's not the graph as much as the text. I see it.
Yeah.
I
I
think
see
that
it.
graph is super impressive, actually.
Uh,
And it goes
uh,
along with their promotions over the years for, you could get a weekend ticket and,
uh,
go to Salem or wherever.
Right, right. And I think this is for the red, yeah, it's the red, orange, and blue lines.
Yeah.
So that's good because I remember like when I first one of the things when I was interviewed, to be on the Rock, I said, we need more service on the weekends, and we need that service, to be provided, be doing what would be the like I said, the rush hour for the weekends is like in the middle of the day,
Right.
as opposed to it being in the end. So you have lots of people trying to use the system on the weekends, and there's just not enough service. And you're not first off, there's just not enough service, period. And certainly not enough service when most people are using it, and
Yep.
I remember the guy from the union, and I think he was like saying, yeah, that's much easier said than done. And I think his whole thought was, boy, oh boy, when you get involved in this, you're gonna find out that everything you're thinking of, we thought about already, and everything's much easier said than done. I'm glad to see that we are providing more weekend service, and it's impressive, that it is above the pre-pandemic levels. So I don't know what's going on there. And so I don't know if it's because we're providing more service on the weekends, or is it that people are just getting out more on the weekends? And now this is wild conjecture. Okay, I have nothing at all. But if it is that people are spending more time at home during the weekdays, then they
Yeah.
may have more incentive to get out on the weekends. So let's say you weren't like going in. So if you're like going into the office 5 days a week, and you can run errands, potentially on some of those days, or do fun stuff or whatever, on some of those days, do your social stuff on some of those days. But now if you're like only going in maybe 3 days a week or not going in at all, then maybe your socializing is happening on the weekends. Like I said, I'm just making the stuff up. It's not like I heard anything about it at all. It's
Yep.
more like if you asked me to come up with an explanation, that was beyond an increase in service, saying that because I think the easiest one is to say, if you increase service because of the elasticities that are associated with service, then you get more riders. So that's the easiest explanation. But I was just thinking, well, what else could there be going on?
That's
So
really good.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not a sociologist, I'm not an economist, but do you think there's any link to inflation that's driving people towards public transit? I mean, the inflation did spike up starting in the beginning of last summer, right?
Well, well, the big inflation spike was, in 22, right? When we
Right,
had
yeah. I just
the
mean like within the last 18 months,
yeah.
didn't didn't everything really start to get hairy in the recent round?
Well,
Well,
it started coming
About
down.
7, 8 months
Started
ago?
coming down in the beginning of 24. I mean, and so it was rising, I think, from like 22
right.
into 23 because
Okay.
of supply chain issues.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then the Fed started increasing interest rates.
Yep.
But that's a different kind of inflation. That's only for really like, I mean, what's a different kind of inflation? But yeah, I mean, in
There, there is
I,
one other thing
yeah,
connected to these figures in a way, and
yeah,
it's the area where Massport actually deserves some credit on trying to help with surface transportation. I see people all the time with bags using transit to get to and from Logan.
yeah,
And I do think they deserve some credit for that. And often it's off peak, because the planes are basically all day long.
right,
So,
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think I've ever done anything but transit to Logan.
yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Not in
so
a very long time.
uh, uh,
Hmm.
yeah,
I don't want to claim
uh,
that this is uh well, it seems to be somewhat authoritative, but I just pulled this up and just for the sake of conversation, if that's the 1 year inflation rate on a graph, that's that's not a bad correlation. Increase in ridership just after summer 24. Well, just after summer 24, inflation rate increasing. I could be finding evidence to support my argument just, without looking at any uh, contradictory points, but ah,
But look in the other direction, Stefan.
yep. In what way?
Well, there's no there's no correspondence with your theory.
so that when the inflation rate was coming down, I mean, it doesn't seem like he's saying like, so you're looking at the inflation rate going up, I mean, eh, on both
Oh,
graphs. I mean, so you look at the inflation rate when it starts going up, I mean, and the ridership when it starts going up, but he's saying when the inflation rate was
yeah.
coming down, you're
Your
not seeing
point.
the ridership coming down. Yeah,
This is the 3 year view. Ah, I just pulled this up kind of like off the cuff. I don't want to make
yeah,
a big deal out of it.
No,
I
yeah,
think you're probably right.
it's also a lot of things. I think probably connected to coming out of the pandemic for some people, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so
uh, yeah. Well, so on slide number 11, the weekday bus trips,
Yep.
uh, as a cabin bus garage,
Yep.
daily stats, 36 bus routes, 100,000 riders, zero drop trips. That's
Oh,
impressive.
holy cow. Good
Yeah,
catch.
that's really impressive. I mean, even if it had been like one or two. This must be an average. I mean, now once again, the eh, I just feel that these slides are becoming increasingly, you know, the data's the paucity of information on these slides.
Yeah.
There's you get something that makes you go, "Oh, this is really interesting," but then when you're trying to tease out more about it, so is this an average? I mean, it has to be an average, but still, I mean, even if the average was like two drop trips being per weekday, that would be great,
yep,
but zero, is phenomenal, and
yep,
they're showing an increase in weekday bus trips. We have 3.2% out of that garage. Now if you go
yep,
down to
Mhm.
slide number 15, so they're showing an increase in subway riders over year of 24%. Month over month, was pretty impressive too. But then I guess that's January into December. I mean,
yeah,
December into January. So yeah, that's just yeah, that would make sense. But bus is up 9%. And I'm not. I guess I'm not too. I'm not bothered or concerned or even particularly surprised that the bus ridership would be going up less than the subway ridership because the bus ridership rebounded me to a much greater extent, post
Yeah.
COVID, the subway did, so it only has so much room to
Well, there
grow.
are
But
people who have to use the bus for one thing, but I
right,
think you may also have some of the subway shutdowns in this number, and you know, as we get past a lot of those,
right, that's true too. Oh, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah, but
and also
yeah, all
leadership. I
right.
think
Got
there's pretty good leadership on some of this too.
yeah, yeah. So, uh, uh, so yeah, that was a GM's deck. So um,
Do we know what the unit of measurement here is on the satisfaction?
well,
Pretty
that's
straight
what I was.
up
That's
to.
what that was the one I mentioned. I
Ah,
mean,
yes.
well, it's percentage. I mean, certain percentage. I mean, but we don't know the time span. I mean, so I'm gonna assume. Well, actually, never mind. I see the time span now. I didn't see it beforehand. So now underneath the 36% is January 2024 to
Yeah.
January 2025. So it's right on the circles. I was looking for it me on at the very bottom. So my bad.
Yeah. I'm disappointed that there's absolutely no mention of what the percentage is.
Well,
I mean,
satisfaction.
is this a percentage of people who said that they're more satisfied than dissatisfied, or is this a percentage of people who said they're like,
Well,
Yeah, I know
what's
I
what
the
you
think
mean.
cutoff point? Because I've taken these surveys many, many, many times, and it's
Right.
it's one through,
Yeah, I know what you
geez,
mean.
1 through 7, I believe.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
It's like
the key one key step on
one
is
through
that
10.
it's the same survey given in the same way. Sorry.
right.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand it's the same survey. I just
Yeah.
mean, is this
I
percentage
Yeah, hi.
I think
rolling up?
I'm a
You
state.
know,
I think
I'm
it's
an
you,
estate
you might want
agency
to mute.
meeting
Can
right
you
now.
yep,
mute?
guy was
Wait.
on top of it. Yep,
Yeah. Yeah. So so he's back. We muted you. Wait. So I think can he?
yep, he can. We're
Okay.
good. No problem,
He,
Wake. All set.
so I think it's probably anything positive over neutral. I mean, will
Yeah,
be considered, um,
yep.
satisfied.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Forgive me while I poke fun a little bit because this reminds me a lot of a Monty Python sketch from back in the late 60s, where there's a John Cleese character standing in front of a bar graph, and he very excitedly says, "This column represents 15% of the population, and this column represents 38% of the population, and this column represents 48% of the population." Back to you, Steve. It
there you
was, I
go.
mean, I think he might have actually been parodying somebody who was on British television at that time,
Right.
but you know, this column represents 38% of the population. Oh, okay.
Yeah. No,
That
I
I mean,
hear
it's
you.
kind of what we've got here, but
Right.
not that bad.
Right.
that humor is embedded in British genes.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah.
Well,
And for anybody who's listening to this, I'm not trying to be, um, I'm not,
unappreciative.
yeah, I'm not trying to be unappreciative of the fact that we're being presented this data. I would just love to see what's the metric. I mean, there's a lot of blank space on this slide. Just tell
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
this
Well, I'm
percent
sure.
is what and what's the vertical graph
I,
here.
I'm sure they talked it through, but I'm
Yep, I bet
not
you're
gonna
right.
go and not gonna go and listen to it, or read the transcript,
I hear you.
and to the extent that's there, and I'm not going actively and getting it, then it's it's my fault, But it's only
Yep,
so much time, only so much time in a day, huh?
exactly. Yep.
And
Um,
uh,
I think I've just noticed the time, um, and I'm reminding myself that I think, Len, you said at the beginning that you wanted to pull up the settlement
the
agreement.
GLX, yeah, the GLXC settlement,
Yeah, I've got
uh,
that right here.
So this was like all news to me, and so you could ask me like what rock were you under, but hey, I didn't know that we had this claim filed
Neither did
against
I.
and I didn't know about the dispute. It was like yeah, it was all news to me. So, but like I said, I mean, I think I just wasn't reading enough. Like I have Google send me everything MBTA related, but I gotta tell you, I mean, I maybe me read like 5% of it because a lot of it's behind paywalls. And so
Okay.
every once in a while, when I have time, I'll
Yeah.
scroll through the subject lines and see if something's going on. But in general, now I kind of feel well, if it's really big, I mean, I'll see about it on the news or I'll read about it in one of these decks. I mean, so it may very well be, that everyone was aware, I mean, of this claim, this dispute, But hey, there it is,
Yep.
So I didn't know
Do
that
we?
GLXC was upset because the T started running revenue service while the project was still going on. You knew that, Stefan?
No, 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 I didn't.
Right.
And but that was the point I was going to call out is what you just highlighted there. Um, I I think we can probably take from this bullet point right here that the original expectation on the part of the constructors contractor was that service would not be revenue service would not be begun until everything was done. I mean, that's how I'm reading that bullet point. It
Right.
doesn't seem unreasonable. Um, I mean, certainly that would have had an effect on the timeline of overall deliverables.
Well,
Well,
there are also two branches, so
right.
Right, that's true.
and the contract was probably pegged to when they started and the penalties. So all and some of it may just have been strategy. If they were running behind, they may have tried to open some stuff earlier than the whole project just because they're running a little behind.
Hmm.
In general, my sense is they were pretty close to on time and on budget. I think the one that really deserves a little deeper explanation is the narrow gauge, though.
Yes.
Right.
Um, that one, I'm pretty sure I don't know enough about that. Some things I did a lot of construction when I was younger, and some things are intentionally tight when they start because there's an assumption of so much loosening up and give
Hmm.
as the system gets worked into. But I do have confidence. I have no reason not to have confidence in Eng. I think he's been an important presence in the T the last few years because he
You're
just
here.
seems up to whatever challenges come along. He handles them as part of the process that was expected. That these things come up and they have to be managed, and so.
Yeah,
But
well said.
I'm sure I don't know the details on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, I hear you. But yeah, like I said, I didn't know this was going on, and so the MBTA apparently has stopped making payments.
Yeah.
Back in 2022, and so I yeah, I kind of feel that is um I feel that I know less about GLXC, now than I did beforehand, and I didn't know much about them beforehand. Anyway, so GLXC, I mean, who are they? I mean, it seems like they kind of grew out of the ground because of the GLX project.
They're
So
generally joint ventures that are put together for large projects. They're generally unique joint ventures.
okay.
So, but they're going to have um, identifiable, big construction companies that just happen to have a configuration for that project.
So it's like a corporation that just kind of is
It's a
birthed.
Yeah,
because of
it's not always a corporation. Sometimes it's a joint venture between multiple corporations.
yeah, I guess they're called constructors. I'm sorry, I call it corporation,
Yeah,
but it's constructors,
yeah,
so
yeah.
so
I've forgotten if it's a nom de plume that covers the two or three major contractors, or whether they were actually welded together. Um, I do think that they all had to guarantee the performance on the contract.
right.
Um,
Yeah. No, so I mean, sometimes I feel like, oh, I knew something and then I forgot it. I mean, but this time I kind of feel like, I don't think I really knew this. But I have to say too that I never really delved into GLX.
yeah.
I always just kind of accepted what was going on with it. And
Well,
so yeah,
the really big story was that the first attempt at it went dramatically off course,
Right.
and led by John Dalton, and th I think this was remarkably on course, on track. These are these are all one-off projects.
right.
These are not, these are not like shopping at the grocery store. Every one of them's one-off, and the first attempt was really, really off track.
Yeah, well, yeah, I hear that. I mean, it's not really clear to me what caused the cost to balloon. But I have to say, I thought the first iteration of the project was very nice. I thought the station. I thought it kind of elevated. Transit. And I thought it would have been a much nicer experience. For
Yeah.
everybody. I felt that it would make you like really want to use the Green Line and make you go, oh, I wish other parts of the system was like this. And this is kind of like it's kind of like it's basic. It does a job. And that's fine.
Well,
But
yeah, I think, Len, the difference was the stations. The first attempt, the stations were
yeah,
somewhat palatial, and
they were yeah, they were nice. They were
yeah,
really
they
nice.
were, but
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I
Uh,
think, and the cost estimates were way off, and
yeah.
some of that was just that the people, this we had not built a large transit project in a
Right.
long, long time. There were
Right.
not experienced people
Right. So let me ask
left.
you this. I'm sorry, I
No, no,
interrupted you.
please.
No, no, please keep going.
No, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. So let me ask you this. We had the costs stayed within bounds. Do you think people would have had an issue with the nature of the stations?
No,
Okay. So
no.
it's not inherent in the stations. It's the cost that made people go, oh, these stations are too much. Okay. All right. That's
Yeah.
fine. All right.
And as a project proponent,
Right.
I did not feel it was fair for this project to, double in cost or whatever and
Yeah.
take, 100% more resources from the whole system
Oh, I agree.
than had been laid out. I just didn't think that was fair,
No, I agree with the remedy.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not really clear to me what caused the cost. To go up. Was it that folks um, misestimated? Or did the scope change? So was it that it was originally priced without these night stations? And then we
No,
added night stations. Or is it that the inflation rate went up, or is there something that caused the price?
no, I think it was not bad behavior by anybody. I think honestly it was just lack of experience in the system at large projects. There were two people in charge of it who had never done something like this, and it
But,
you know
but what did
it
they
just
miss? What did they miss that caused
um
the cost to go up?
they had um kind rose-colored glasses on from day one. They did not have a handle on the scope of the project from day one. And as that scope became more and more apparent, it
Okay.
went off track in both time and capital.
Right.
And it wasn't their fault. There was nobody in the T who had done a large project.
Well, what's
And
this
this
like?
is,
I'm sorry. I keep
no,
stepping
no,
on you.
please.
It's my fault. I'm sorry. You keep going.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. What happens, Wig, is that I hear a pause and I think you're done. And then I start talking and then I realize you're not done. So
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
trying not to interrupt you, all right? Because I'm interested in what you're saying, So were you finished your thought?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So was this the first design build or an early design build project initially?
Yeah, but well, no, I don't think it was.
Okay.
But as someone who went to almost every important meeting for the whole life of it, and I went to 10 years of MPO meetings. Um, I think it was simply lack of experience. There was no experience left in the system for this scale of project. And it
Well,
wasn't the people's fault. It wasn't the internal people's fault. The contractors didn't really care about sticking to what the initial, budget and timelines and stuff were. They're focused on making money for themselves. So it was impossible to control the contractors. And there was a
oh,
full stop to the project and a long look at it. And I think they just hired the right guy. And he was able to, John Dalton had some experience from Chicago, but not a huge amount. But he knew to bring in people who had the scale of knowledge and experience who could manage the project to its intended cost and timeline.
so we weren't aware of the increase in cost until the project went out to bid. Is that the issue?
The first time, yes.
All right, all right. So the bids all came in higher than expected.
They came in high, but there had also been a lot of creep as the project was being thought of and designed before it went out to bid for real the
Right,
first time.
right.
It just had scope added to it over and over and over again,
It,
including in the
Oh,
stations. And
right,
and they were well-meaning exactly in the way that you are expressing with regard to the stations, but
right,
they had no concept of the cost level they were adding.
right.
I don't know if you can see, but this is the Wikipedia page, and I'm finding it to be quite reliable looking. Lots of references, but I just want to call out that the time frame is here, where 2015 it was called out and put on hold. Um, Revised plan 2016 approved in 2017, and it does call it two places on here. Indeed, a design build contract
Yeah,
for whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
yeah, that was the final contract.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that in two references, both in the
I thought
summary and
I
here.
thought it started off as a design build too, didn't it?
Oh, it
Well,
does. Yeah, you're absolutely
it
right. It did begin.
yeah, but
Phase one construction contract, 13 million, Barletta heavy, traditional design build. Yep. Yeah, you're right.
But I guess to Wig's point, I mean, that phase one is what actually took place. Maybe
Yes.
Wig is saying that, this is what happened. But before what was proposed was not going to be design build. Wig, is that you're saying? The initial
it
proposal
it
was not for
no,
design
it
build?
might have been, but the
That's what I'm seeing here. Yeah.
the lack of management over the costs and time was embedded in the tiny team for the state that had not enough experience and capacity to know whether they were on track internally or to control the the bidders the first time around.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not. Well, I'm not sure how you control bidders. And I say that not to question the ability to control bidders. So not, I just don't know how you control them.
Well,
It's
it's
not.
like, let's say there was
Yeah.
a wealthy, a young couple who got wealthy really quick, and they wanted to build a big custom home, and they'd never dealt with contractors before or architects. What their imagination is, and the reality can diverge very quickly.
Mhm. Okay. Well, that's an interesting analogy. That helps me get the point. I understand that. That's interesting. You know, but I guess I guess where I'm gonna kind of combat that or confront that a little bit though is that the public bidding process. There's like there's a legal element to that, right?
Yeah,
Where you can't really get in there and tell people what to bid. There and I think to a
right.
large extent, and this is one of the things that you kind of I feel creates a moral hazard. When we are saying that we have this capital money that we just want to spend and it looks bad if we don't spend it, is that it gives the bidders no incentive to bid low. And I guess it's a two-edged sword too, because one is that well, you tell them you want to spend this money, and so they have to instead of bid low, but then there's another element where they bid unrealistically low, and then they get in there and it's like, oh, we need more money, which we got
Yeah,
on the red line cars, so
yeah,
it's really
I
hard,
would agree with that, but the design build framing of it,
right?
the first go around with this, I think a typical conversation would be, as more details got added, the pushback from the contractors would be, well, you didn't tell us all of that was in when we first talked to you, and
Right.
I think that happened over and over again,
Yeah.
that the people on the team did not actually know all the things that had to be in there,
Right.
and the contractors just ran all over it.
Yeah. Well, I'll just tell you because we struggle with this on the MPO. Man, we're struggling with it again. Where we get these projects that we have gotten some preliminary approval from the state. And
Yeah,
now lately we put into place. You have to be 25% design. We have to have a cost estimate,
yeah,
25% design. Before we put you on the tip. But then when they get to 75% design, it's like the costs have like really gone up much more than inflation would. And a lot of times it's like,
right.
well, in the process of doing this, well, two things happen. They're like, well, the state has kind of changed the standards. You've made it like harder, or you've increased requirements, and so these requirements are adding to the cost. In which case, it's like, okay, that's our fault, and
Yeah,
the other side, well, we get in there and then we realize there are other things we have to do.
right.
And there's a third one where it's like we get in there and it's like, well, we don't have to do this, but it'd certainly be a whole lot cheaper if we did this now, than if we did it later
Yes.
on, and that's kind of like the justifiable scope creep. But then, then we end up with a project that we put in at 8 million.
Yeah,
It's like 20 million,
right.
and it's wreaking havoc, on the rest of the
Yep,
tip,
yep,
and it's not like a incompetent because when you listen to the reasons, it's like, okay, this all makes sense.
yep,
I'll be hard pressed to tell people, well, no, and given the whole municipality thing, and you realize they don't have any
yep,
alternatives, you're kind of. But I'm getting into MPO stuff, and I can go into that a
yep.
whole lot more if you all
No,
ever
no,
interested at
no,
some point in time. Go
you're
ahead.
right. And I'm sure that you've seen how varied the competence can be. You may have a community that's used to doing a similar scale project every 5 or 10 years, and then you have another community that um, very rarely does projects, and so they don't have the same kind of quantification ability in their head. The other
Yeah,
thing is, some communities just have better staff that have been there a while. They've done these things, and some communities are really challenged
yeah. Well,
by other issues.
well, I'm going to leave it at this, and those who know will know me,
Yeah.
who I'm referring to. But you can have the very big projects. are usually by the very big communities, and they tend to be the ones that are most problematic, you know. So it's like,
And
so
also the giant state projects like new highway interchanges and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah, that's gonna be something else, you know. So the Austin Exchange,
And think back to the big dig, and
yeah,
the guy who how many the worst contractor in the big dig was just staggeringly problematic.
yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know that history, uh, but maybe we can pick that up another time. The next meeting is going to have a lot of finance stuff. And I may try and bring in someone to talk about safety. Because there's a safety slide deck in here that was also presented at the MPO. Which has some interesting metrics. I'll just leave you with this.
Okay.
On injuries. Injuries are the rate of injuries are calculated on million vehicular miles
Mhm.
basis, and I'm kind of and that's kind of like a standard FTA thing,
Yeah.
but I'm kind of wondering if that's really the right way to look at it, because I looked at the definitions, for like workers, these aren't simply like operators, and drivers. They can also like be like people be working on the rails, maintenance people working on the rails. And so I'm thinking now, is that really a good way of calculating it? Because they're not really riding anywhere,
Right.
and so I was thinking, well, maybe it should be a proportion of the number of people who are in the workforce. There's got to be a better way of determining whether or not your workforce is suffering injuries, and even if we report what the feds want, but there's nothing stopping us as an entity from going above and beyond what the feds require. If that
Right.
gets us really meaningful information. And I went
Yep.
to the FTA site, and I was afraid to go there because I knew it would happen. Instead, I just kind of like get sucked in. But of like each of the
Uh,
injury reports, though, there's an explanation. There's like a nice description of what happened. And I might kind of pull those down at some point in time to see if I can like get listing of the elements that go into it. It's all fodder for me to learn how to really get good at prompt engineering, for the various large language models out there, So,
Well, I
oh,
um,
think that
interesting.
yeah,
I
go ahead.
think you would be able to find pretty good statistics by occupation on injuries and deaths per 1,000 hours or per 10,000 hours.
Yeah, so the amount of time worked, that could be like a good metric too, and one of the new metrics, that the MPO is looking at, and I think, I'm sorry, the MPO is looking at because the feds are looking at it, is um attacks on bus drivers, so that's a new
Yeah,
one, but it's a good one, and
Yep.
that one, once again, I can see how million vehicle miles would be a metric, but for me, those are more. They kind of relate more to maintenance. And
right.
maybe even accidents because they are to a certain extent. They kind of correlate with time. But then I was thinking they also correlate with the size of the system too, because I would imagine a a, a property that, let's say, in the the South, like Dallas or something, it could have a lot of vehicle miles because it's like, or Houston better, which is really spread out. They could have a lot of vehicle miles, and their rates might be seemingly low
Right.
because they have to travel a
Yep.
lot from one place to another, and so I'm just kind of wondering, like, is that really a good way to, well, first off, compare systems, but is it really a good
Right.
way of measuring what's really happening in your system? So that's all. So I, I'm gonna ask someone from the MTA, maybe the guy who presented for the MPO, to come and talk with us. So
Was that
that.
Lesniak? Was that Mr. Lesniak, the chief safety
Oh,
officer?
no, it was not. It was
Okay.
not. And so, Sandy Johnson was the guy from the MBTA that was there, but there was another guy there who really talked to safety when I asked a question, and Sandy said, "This is the person you should really ask," but I didn't get his name. But the guy from MPO is Sam. I'm blanking out on his last name. He's a really good guy. But I mean, it was early on in the appeal meeting. It was slated to be a 2.5 hour meeting, so I didn't want to ask a lot of questions, that were kind of like curiosity and more so like going, I know this is what you have to do, but can we do something more? Because
Yeah.
it's more efficient expedition, so I'll try and get that person to come talk with us. There's no rush, but we'll talk, capital need and the budget at the next meeting, and maybe even these funding, links that I keep throwing in, So, all
Yeah,
right. So
very good.
I need to take a little break, get a little food because I have to meet with
Yep.
the town council
No worries.
30.
There's nobody on YouTube right now, and it's just the three of us in Zoom. So unless one of you two fellas wants to make a
Motion
public
to
comment
adjourn.
kind of a statement,
Uh, uh,
we can adjourn it. We've covered quite a bit. I'm thankful as always for you being here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I really am. Even though I yawned,
No
so
worries.
all right. Yeah, thanks for the history, the Green Line stuff. It's like I lived through it. Someone needs to do a
Yeah.
documentary on it for me. Normally, I don't watch documentaries for stuff that I was involved in, but this is what I would watch. And I probably like, go, oh,
Yes.
that's really what happened. Anyways,
Yeah. Thank
Wig,
you, Wig.
yeah, Wig. That's all you. Start a company, do a documentary on the Green GLX.
Well, I know video people, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if everybody's still around who worked on it,
I
but
understand.
it would actually make a pretty good short video, both
I think it was. Yeah,
yeah, kind of
Yeah.
from all different directions.
yeah,
It's a good idea.
yeah. Ken Burns.
I may talk to somebody who teaches at Emerson.
Yeah, there you go. All
Please.
right.
Yeah. Talk it
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All
Okay.
right. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Good night. See you next time. And good night, everyone watching.